Winter Speed, it's World Cup bobsledding from Altenberg, Germany. One of the most sophisticated and dangerous tracks on the World Cup bobsled circuit. You'll see 20 nations on hand competing for spots at the upcoming Albertville Olympics.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Fee, and welcome to Winter Speed's coverage of World Cup bobsledding from Altenberg, Germany. Altenberg is located between Dresden and the Czechoslovakian border in what was formerly East Germany. This area is still adjusting to the changes brought about from reunification, and the bobsled drivers here are adjusting to the new rules which will apply at the Olympics in Albertville. With me is Diego Minardi, the chief mechanic for the Canada bobsled team, and we're here in Altenberg, the first race where the new rules for the bobsled take effect. Diego, could you tell me specifically what are the major rules that these sledders have to have on their sleds?
Okay, basically they make the whole frame now is in the rules, which wasn't before, and so basically everybody has to go with the same type of frame now.
Well, the runners, is there any rules about the runners themselves or the suspension or anything like this that's important here as well?
Yeah, I would say that basically every team already changed their bobs for the fourth race of the season, and the only problem was with the runners that until last race the runners were allowed with a different thickness of the steel. Now they're not allowed anymore, so some teams may have problems because of this, because they don't have good runners with, like, new good runners with the new rules.
One thing that hasn't changed, though, is how you drive a bobsled. Here's John Morgan to show you the ropes.
From the outside looking in, it's difficult to see how the driver steers the sled. We're going to give you an inside look, and I'll tell you one thing, it's not a steering wheel. It's simple technology that's been around a long time. Driving handles here, attached to bungee cords, into an axle that controls the runners. You want to go right, you pull right. You want to go left, you pull left. The sled will always go back to neutral for you in the straightaways. The way you get on and off the corners, a simple squeeze will allow you to get on the corner, put it in neutral. A simple squeeze will allow you to come off the corner. In a turn, if you see a driver looping or going up and down, that means he's guilty of oversteering. You'll never see the good drivers do that, because it's not the driver who steers the most that wins, it's the driver who steers the least.
Thanks, John. With me is Jim Hickey, the chief of the U.S. bobsled team. Jim, there's a new rule this year in the Olympic Games in Albertville, in that there's going to be seating for your placings in the Olympics. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the process going on, and that's what the World Cup is all about this year, is an Olympic seating process. And you have to be in the top 15 to be in Group 1, and that's where you need to be seated in Group 1, certainly, to win gold medals.
Why is that so important, Jim, to have that top 15?
Well, obviously, you need to be in the top 15 for the draw purposes, to get the good ice and that kind of stuff, and that's where the medals are won. I mean, you can't come from 34th place to win a medal, so you got to be in the top 15, and that's where the seeding process takes place.
This event is the last chance for these bobsledders to garner enough points to get in the top 15 seeding for the Olympics in Albertville. Earlier this week, they held the two-man event here in Altenberg. For a report, let's go to John Morgan.
A broom was the most important piece of equipment this week in Altenberg, as the sweepers tried to clear continuous snowfalls from the track. The snow made the race somewhat of a lottery, with successive sleds experiencing greatly varying conditions. Harold Chodai of Germany was the pre-race favorite, but found himself in fourth place at the finish. This used to be Chodai's home track, and with that home track advantage, you thought he'd be able to launch himself into first place. Little disappointing for Harold Chodai of Germany. Zintas Sigmanis of Latvia was also on hand. This former Soviet pilot was psyched up for a run at the top placings to boost his World Cup standings and move up into the Olympic seedings. A less than precise line out of curve 9 and an untimely heavy snowfall left Igmanis in 11th place at the bottom. Frustration showed on his face, and he asked, "Why me?" The elements were kinder to Italy's Gunter Huber and brakeman Stefano Tisi, but not enough for them to maintain the top placing they had held after the first heat. Their second run time of 59.99 seconds was 1 2/10 of a second slower than their first heat time, but it was still good enough to give them the bronze medal at the bottom. Huber was the guy who finished second at the test last year in Albertville and is a pre-race Olympic favorite. Driver Dennis Marino of Calgary and his brakeman Jack Pick, also of Calgary, carried the added weight of being the only Canadian team in the competition. Greg Haidluck and Chris Laurie chose to skip the Altenberg race. Again, the fickle conditions played a part, with a snow-covered track giving Dennis Marino a time of 59.82, almost 1 second slower than his first heat time. Marino did show great promise in the competition for the Canadian program. His brakeman, Jack Pick, is evidence of that. He's only 20 years old and came from Poland 4 years ago. The youth of the Canadian program and success is really starting to show. Dennis Marino's time was almost good enough to give the Canadians first place, but for the skill and good fortune of Germany's Peter Heinz, who took advantage of local knowledge and a draw that gave him a freshly swept track to record almost identical times in both heats, allowing him to jump from 7th place after the first heat to finish first by just 25/100ths of a second over Marino. This shows the depth of the unified German team as unknown Peter Heinz captures the gold. Dennis Marino in second. Gunter Huber of Italy continues progress towards his place in Albertville. Harold Chodai of Germany in fourth. The USA's Brian Scheimer with Brian Maturgis on the brakes, a disappointing 16th place.
It's one of the fastest and most challenging tracks in the world. It was also the site of last year's World Championships. For an unusual look at the track, let's go to John Morgan.
The combination bobsled and luge track at Altenberg was built in 1985 by the former East German secret police, the Stasi. This was their private testing ground of athletes and part of that sophisticated East German military sports program. The track is now known by all the competitors as definitely the most challenging artificially refrigerated track now in the world. The 1,550-meter track with 16 corners keeps the drivers busy from start to finish, unlike some of the tracks on the World Cup circuit. We had a chance to take a ride on the track and put one of our little mini cams on the front to give you a driver's point of view. Just as it is in any bobsled track in the world, the start at the top is crucial for a fast time at the bottom. After the driver and team set themselves in, they must relax, because now they start what the bobsledders call the champagne of thrills. No mistakes allowed up here where the speeds are slow. A lot of corners come rushing at you very quick. Now into the labyrinth, a three-corner combination that every track in the world must have. Now at a curve 9 into the long straightaway before the tightest 360-degree corner in the world, the Kreisel. At a Kreisel, your sled is thrown in its slingshot effect down the bottom part of the track at 70-plus mile-an-hour speeds. It's here where your head gets buried between your legs. The drivers that can slow the 70-mile-an-hour speeds down to 30 miles an hour like a baseball hitter are the ones that will be successful at the bottom. Altenberg is definitely a world-class challenge. Snowy conditions prevail here in Altenberg, Germany. We've already had one heat completed here of the two in this competition. Harold Chodai of Germany is in first place, followed very closely by Stan Tout of Great Britain. The Soviets, with great start times, are in third. Gasquito, the Italian policeman, is in fourth. Randy Will of the United States is in fifth. The best start team in the competition, Gerhard Rainer of Austria, is in sixth. Another Austrian in seventh. Gunter Huber, the Italian, surprisingly only in eighth place. Nick Phipps, the three-time Olympian of Britain, in ninth. Chuck Leonowitz of the United States in 10th. And a tie for 11th between the Latvian Poikins and the Frenchman Lachey. We still have no flag for the Latvians. That reflects the changes in the world of bobsledding. There's another Latvian, Igmanis, is in 13th. Dennis Marino from Calgary in 14th. Peter Heinz from Germany in 15th. Now we go to Peter Heinz from Germany, who's the first man down in the second heat. Ironically, the first guys down in this heat were the guys were first and second in the two-man competition. His teammates, Kohler, Stock, and Linkmer, and they're all from Winterberg, Germany. Good start angle here. The crew sits down. They must get in with cat-like movements. Their start time, very competitive. But as I said earlier, the Austrians and the Soviets are the ones with the best starts from the first heat in the 520s area. Watch for their footwork here. You don't want to see anybody with a lot of feet in the air. You want to see them get them down quick. But Peter Lentz came out of nowhere to win the two-man competition, but only in 15th place here at the end of the first heat. Here he is at a curve 9. Oh! On two runners. It was almost disaster there for the Germans. 109 kilometers of speed. The Kreisel and that. Oh! Two runners out of Kreisel. Peter Heinz of Germany on the edge of disaster on two successive corners. Let's watch him down here in the speed trap. There's 116.13 kilometers. It's about 73 miles an hour. He's the first man down in this heat, so that'll be the time to beat 58.11. Most importantly, he's at the bottom safely, and I'm sure he can bless himself. He's shaking his head. He knows, and I'm sure his teammates know behind him. Peter Heinz of Germany safely at the bottom. You can see him shaking his head. Here he is at a curve 9. Now watch the head snap. This is, you talk about having a team, they're fighting upper runner pressure. They want the sled to come back down. Look at them, they're all on that upper runner. And oh, if they weren't on that upper runner pressure, they'd have been upside down. Peter Heinz of Germany just missing disaster. Every time you get to the bottom of the bobsled track, you smile, and you can see him smiling there. Our next competitor is Canada #1, Dennis Marino, the driver from Calgary. He's joined by Guy Schaefer, 24 years old, also from Calgary. Used to be part of the University of Calgary's national championship dynos team. Third man is Scott Henniger, Prince Edward Island, 20 years old. Former Canadian juvenile champion for the 100 meters in 1986. Jack Pitt from Calgary, also 20 years old on the back of the sled. And a very young team here for the Canadians, all track and field specialists. And let's see what they do for the start. 5:45 was the best start so far by Peter Heinz. And Dennis Marino's team, 5.45, so they matched the time. Marino's got a 2,700ths lead over Peter Heinz of Germany, and unless he makes a major mistake, he should have that. Here's the start. Heads are down, a little bit going back and forth, side to side, and the feet aren't coming down the same, but that's just the youthful aspect of this team. And when you're 20 years old like these guys are, and you're in bobsledding, you've got a great future ahead of you. Marino comes off curve 9, a little sloppy. 1,400ths better already than Peter Heinz. It's in the Kreisel. Good sign for Canada to at least maintain its place here. Minus 28, so Dennis Marino all over Peter Heinz of Germany. Good heat here for Dennis Marino of Calgary. 116.13, that's the same kilometer speed as the German Peter Heinz. And here comes Marino into the finish this time. 57.56, he blows off the German time and puts him in first place overall by 74 hundredths of a second. Good heat for the Canadians and Dennis Marino. Congratulatory remarks between the team.
That's faster than our first one. Good.
One thing the driver must do, he must have a lot of faith in the guys behind him.
Good job.
Here he is at a curve 9. Now watch him, or at a Kreisel here. Watch him come off here a little bit late. The head's really snapped, but he just nicks the wall there a little bit, doesn't steer away from it, and avoids a mistake. So very good driving by the Canadian Dennis Marino.
Membership entitles you to a t-shirt, a hat, a pin, a membership card, and information on the team members. For more info concerning the Jam Bob Federation Fan Club and Site Selection Committee, call toll-free 1-800-BOBSLED.
Yeah.
They call it fun. The Olympic Winter Games are coming to CBS. Fasten your seatbelts and share a moment with the world.
From Latvia, Zintis Ikmanis. He won the first ever Olympic medal in the sport of bobsledding for the Soviet Union at the 84 Olympic Games in Sarajevo. Now he's trying to win one for Latvia. All his teammates are former Soviet bobsledders, and you talk about having a lot of pride for your country. These guys certainly have it. They have the best start time so far, too, with a 5.39. The Latvians, though, are borrowing equipment back and forth, but they still know how to start the sleds here. They really don't have their teams in perfect position yet, but by the time Albertville comes around, I'm sure these guys will be right in the hunt. He had a 600s better start, and he only had a 200s better time there, so that reflects a little bit of a problem. A little bit of skid here. Let's watch 110.2, 68-mile-an-hour speeds into the Kreisel. Nice, smooth exit out of Kreisel. Only minus 100 now, so he's got to watch out. He's right in the dead heat with Heinz, and he's got the Canadian to look out for, too. So minus 5, he picked up a little time, and that related to that good exit out of Kreisel. So the veteran ex-Soviet pilot, the Latvian, Zintas Ignatis in the finish. He holds his placing. Minus 5 there, minus 6 overall over Dennis Marino. So Zintas Ignatis has experience on the track and holds off the Canadian Dennis Marino. Zintas is now in first place overall. Great story at the Olympics upcoming because another Soviet pilot, Yanis Kippers, is also on the World Cup circuit. He's now sliding for Latvia. He won a gold and bronze for the Soviet Union in Caligrade '88. So these Latvians could be quite a story at the upcoming games in Albertville. We shall see. Up on line is another Latvian, Maris Poikins. Poikins finished 5th in the four-man competition at the Calgary Olympic Games for the Soviet Union. So you can see the Latvians are pretty deep. He's a pretty good pilot. Here he is up top. Oh, there's a serious mistake. You can see the skids in the snow. Oh, is he going to have some problems trying to get a good time here in this heat? Here he is out into the Laverick corners, out of curve 9. Another story about Maris Poikins. I was here at the World Cup competition in 1987. Here he is out of 9, into Kreisel. He's got 70-mile-an-hour speed. Well, his sled hit the lip here, and in 50 feet, disintegrated and came to a complete halt right there before it got out of the corner. Poikins was lifted out of the track on a stretcher and spent about 10 days in a hospital with a serious concussion. He came back to compete in the Calgary Games, but it was a pretty serious problem for Maris Poikins at that World Cup in '87. He's got his problems on the track right now. He's driving a borrowed sled. He borrowed a sled from the German Harold Chodai. It's Chodai's backup sled, and driving an unfamiliar sled, you'll make mistakes like Poikins just made. He's 70 hundredths off the pace now, shaking his head in disgust. He knows those mistakes like that you can't make in the sport of bobsled. Well, his teammates all have new uniforms, but as Poikins gets out of the sled, he's got his old Soviet uniform on. I wonder how much longer he's going to wear that. You can see him very disgusted as he walks away. Now up at the top of the track, it's another team with problems at the upcoming Albertville Olympics. It's the home track favorites, Christophe Flachet. He's joined by Das, Thibodeau, and Formagay. The French are coached by the great former Swiss pilot Silvio Giovalena, and Giovalena has also designed their sleds. He's also a great sled builder. 5.43, a competitive start, but as I told you, there's some teams upcoming, they'll get in the 20s, and people with the great starts are the ones that are going to be in the medal hunt. Especially as they enter the sled there for the French. He's +3, which isn't bad considering there's 400s behind at the start. Out of curve 9, let's watch his exit. Came off with a little bit of a skid. Now he's -2, so the French, Flachet made a great move from +3 to -2. Great exit out of the big Kreisel corner. He's still -2. Let's watch for the speed. The speed will be a good indicator. -6, 117.39 kilometers. That's the best speed we've seen so far, almost 74 miles an hour. Christophe Flachet into the finish with the best time of the heat of 57.36. And he's got a 2200s lead overall on the Canadian Dennis Marino. Good heat for Christophe Flachet of France. He's only been driving for 4 years now, and the French went out and did a very good recruiting program of good athletes, and we'll find out at the upcoming Albertville Olympics. Good driver here on the exit of Kreisel, though. None of the heads are snapping. Very smooth transition here as he comes off the corner. barely touches the right-hand wall. Good driving by Christophe Flachet of France. How good a driving that was, we'll find out. There's many more sleds yet to come here on Winter Speed. In Altenberg, Germany, our next team at the top of the track, it's the United States' Chuck Leonowitz. He's joined by Todd Snavely, Brian Liturgis, and on the brakes, the former captain of the U.S. Navy football team, Bob Weissenfels. They were 10th place into the first heat. They need a good start.
Ready, up,
5.39 is the best start so far. Leonowitz team, 5.45. Jeff Woodard's the usual brakeman. They got Bob Weissenfels on the brakes here. Woodard standing in the background right there on the left, yelling at him. And I don't know if Woodard's hurt or not, but Weissenfels is there. And Woodard and the two other guys, Snavely and Liturgis, are the team that upset Willie Galt, Greg Harrell, and Edwin Moses at the push trials this summer for the U.S. And they haven't been getting the great starts everybody expected. Leonowitz plus 12, going into Kreisel, 110 clicks. That's about 68.5 miles per hour. Oh, rough transition coming off Kreisel. Leonowitz driving his 4th different sled in 4 World Cup races. He's probably the only person in the world to do that, but they don't give awards for driving different sleds. They give awards for the best finish times. Leonowitz at pretty good speed to finish, 73 miles an hour speed. He's plus 36 hundredths off the pace. That's going to move him down at least a couple places, though. And he's in 4th place overall. Chuck Leonowitz, Brian Liturgis, Todd Snavely, and Bob Weissenfels. 4th place overall for the United States. A lot of good sleds yet to come, though, and I'm sure that won't hold up. Here he is at a Kreisel, a little driving mistake here, came off late, drove it over into the right-hand wall. The heads really snapped. Anytime you take a 4-man sled and make that type of mistake, it erases a lot of time. The snow continues to fall, and I'm sure that's hurt the driver's visibility. Up next at the top of the track, the veteran pilot Nick Phipps of Great Britain. He's joined by Eddie Horrell, David Armstrong, and John Keane. What for their start? 5.44, 500ths off the start. Oh, push bar. They had to pull that in. That's a little distracting. And let's see if we can see how this push bar stays out. Again, we're going to, 5.44 is not the real competitive start time. Phipps, 39 years old, great track and field athlete in his day, been driving sleds for 7 years. He's already got the 88 games under his belt. He's 1,400ths off the pace, but not very good speed, 109 clicks, about 69 miles an hour speed. Smooth transition off Kreisel. Let's watch him in the S. Very clean. 116.13. Same speed as Chuck Leonowitz, 72.5 mile an hour speed. Into the finish. This time, 57.96 in this heat. Puts him in 5th place overall for the veteran Nick Phipps of Great Britain.
57.96.
He's asking questions to his teammates. Here's that little mistake up top. He comes off this corner. That push bar is still out. And one of the riders in the team, the brakeman, gets up and realizes to pull it back in, because if he doesn't, that'll definitely cause a problem down below in the track. Out of curve 9, everybody's having problems coming off here, flopping it. He gets into a little bit of a skid, comes over, taps that right-hand wall, and there the sled starts to skid, and boy, you just can't do that and expect a good time. Now up at the top of the track, the Italian Gunter Huber. The Italians are real good in the sports of bob and luge, and one of the reasons why is because of the family, the Hubers. We saw Willie Huber and Arnold Huber compete in earlier winter speed programs in the sport of luge. But Gunter's got his work cut out for him. He was in 8th place here into the first heat. And the Italians definitely making a fashion statement top of that track with those pants. Their start time, 5.43, which is normal for Huber. He's not known as a great starter, but he's definitely known as a great pilot, much like his brothers are in the sport of luge. Let's Watch for their feet, the cohesiveness of the feet going down together, the heads going back and forth together. Here we are in the labyrinths. Now into curve 9. Let's watch him flop. Let's watch for the rudder tips here. Maybe smooth transition. Watch for speed. 111 collects. That's about the best speed we've seen so far out of there. Almost 70-mile-an-hour speeds into the Kreisel. Good exit out of Kreisel. Now into the S. Oh, look at that brake for this number 2 man's head's way above the driver. Usually they get tucked in there for aerodynamic purposes, but the number 2 guy is way up. You can see that. I wonder if he just can't get his arms and duck in there behind him or not. But Boomer's into the finish with good speed and a good time. 57.52 overall time. He takes the lead by only 0.04 of a second. But the question begs, how much better of a time could he have had if that number 2 man, Meiningen, could have tucked himself in there for aerodynamic purposes? Whether or not Huber had a good time, we're going to find out, because up next, the 7 top sleds are yet to come. He's atop of the leaderboard. Christophe Flachet of France in second. Zintas Sigmanis of Latvia is in third. The Canadian Dennis Marino in fourth. And Chuck Leonowitz of the USA is in fifth. Stay with us. It's now time on Winter Speed for our York International Olympic moments on ice.
Look hard at this man and tell me what you see. Okay, hint, he's a bobsled driver. Been to the Olympics and will be there again. Does that change what you see? Okay, this is Prince Albert of Monaco, the son of the late Princess Grace. Now how do you see him? Of course, the royal forehead, the studious gaze, the body of a black belt. Doesn't every country have a prince in the driver's seat?
Probably at first there was a certain element of what is this guy doing here? But I think I've proved, and my team has, that we were in here for the sport and not so much for the hoopla. It's taught me a lot about myself, and it's really taught me a lot in my relations with other people. Plus, I think it's been very good for me to get away from Monaco and to do my own thing. I do what I do, something I really enjoy doing.
First impressions aside, he is an unassuming-looking fellow. Even when he and his teammates find an ironically named shop in a mall one day, a partner has to show the name Monaco on his T-shirt to gain belief. Still, no one knows this is the prince of all things.
Probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Super guy. I have nothing bad at all to say about him. Around bobsledding, yeah, he's just another grease monkey working on the sleds.
At the 1988 Olympics in Calgary, Prince Albert and his team finished way back in the pack, and no one was surprised. Despite his competitiveness, Albert is too slight to be an effective sledder, losing valuable seconds at the top of the track. And yet here on his feet, he dreams of what might be, closing his eyes and imagining the walls flying by him.
In the 2-man, I really hope for a top 20, but that's going to be very difficult.
If not impossible, this prince does not rule here, cannot legislate medals. But in case anybody would like to trade, this fellow has a Legion of Honor and some riches on the Riviera he may swap for gold of a different sort. For Winter Speed, I'm Tim Singer reporting.
Welcome back to a World Cup 4-man bobsledding on Winter Speed. The kids are having a great time in these snowy conditions, but the athletes are struggling a little bit here with the snow. Up now is Hubert Schlosser, one of the upcoming Austrian pilots in the Great Austrian program, and he's in 7th place at the end of the first heat. Start time important as usual, 5.38, so there's the best start so far in this competition. And you can see a lot of snow on the track, and if the snow continues to fall, it's going to be a disadvantage for the sleds yet to come. They really hit the start together. Heads bobbing a little bit too far back and forth on the right guy, but very good start, the best start so far of this heat. There he is coming out of curve 9 to see if he flops it. No, he comes pretty straight, right down the middle of the track, 110.20. We've seen that speed, 69 miles an hour. Out of Kreisel, he makes a little bit of a mistake. He's plus 19. That's not a good sign, though, for Schlosser. Watch him here in the S. Another speed trap coming up. 117.39. That's a good sign. Almost 74 miles an hour, but he loops in the finish there. Sled got away from him. Into the finish, Herbert Slasser. His time, 57.76, the third fastest time of the heat. And overall, it leaves him in third place. So he made a little mistake there in the finish corner, and that 16 hundredths that he's behind was probably what he lost up in that finish corner. Now up to the top of the track, Gerhard Rayner, Tommy Backler, Nutang, and Schweitz, another team from Austria. And they had some fantastic starts in the first heat. 5.38's the best start so far. Reynard's time, 5.26. Whoa! So the Austrians have really been coming on the last 2 years, and the reason they've been coming on is because they get great starts. There they are. They come off the block together, and they really leg it out. These Austrians are all from Innsbruck, and they've had a lot of time in the summer to practice with each other, and it's showing it now. Look at that. He's minus 30. And that shows you how valuable the start is in bobsledding. He can make a few driving mistakes like he did right there and still maintain good speed to the bottom. 110 collects into, and Kreisel, he just went up and down there in a loop, made a good exit. Minus 23, went from 30 to 23. He's probably going to lose some more time. He's a great starter, not a good driver yet, but you can afford to make some mistakes. Now he's only minus 9, so that mistake he made up in Kreisel cost him dearly. You only have 114 kilometers of speed, not very good speed, but when you got that good a start time, you can have a great finish time, and that's what he just had. Gerhard Rayner puts himself atop of the leaderboard, and boy, the start time says it all. And he likes it, shaking his fists, and once again, if you got that fast start, you can make the driving mistakes like he did down the mountain and still get down there with the fastest time. So Rayner with the good starts is atop of the leaderboard. Huber, the Italians, in second. Christophe Lachey in third. Hubert Schass, another Austrian, in fourth. Igmanis in fifth. The Canadian Dennis Marino in sixth. USA Czech Leonowitz is in seventh. Stay with us. Of Austria is in the lead. The snow continues to fall. Next up, it's the USA's Randy Will. Good story about Randy, and my colleague Tim Slinger filed this report.
Randy Will's emergence as a world-class four-man driver does not come as a surprise to those close to bobsledding. The upstate New Yorker is currently in 8th place in the four-man points race, that following a 5th last week at Innsbruck. The 1988 Olympian attributes his success to his driving experience, the growth of his sport, and mostly tremendous support and backing from the folks at Dynamark Security Centers.
I believed in my dream, and I believe in what they do, and it just kind of mixed and gelled, and I'll tell you, it's a dream come true.
Our mission statement is to make Dynamark the most trusted, respected, and recognized name in security in America. And our involvement with Randy Will and the Olympic bobsled team, that carries right in with our mission, because Randy is a great spokesperson for our company. He's an all-American young man.
Randy Will, the United States, in 5th place at the end of the first heat. He's joined by Joe Sawyer, Carlos Kirby, and Tom Allen. They need a good start. Randy Will was on this track in 1987 at the World Cup, so he's familiar with the lines that the track offers him. 5:26, 5.41. So he's 15 hundredths down at the start, and he's got a lot to overcome to make that up. His team, Carlos Kirby, Joe Sawyer, and Tom Allen, all good athletes who just got put together in the last 10 days, and that showed him that start time. But let's see about Will. Let's see if he can overcome that start deficiency with a good time. Well, a little bit of a mistake there out of 9. Good speed, though, 111.34. That's 70-mile-an-hour speed. Let's watch him on the exit. Good exit out of Kreisel. He's only 12 hundredths down, so he's making up some time already in that start time. Here's what we'll find out right here with the speed and the time. Oh, look at that. Look at the speed, 118.68. By far and away the best speed we've seen so far in the competition. Randy Will into the finish, 57.28, the fastest time of the heat. That puts him in first place overall. Wow, what a heat for the USA's Randy Will. He knows it. And for a 1,500 efficient start time, to come down with a fastest finish time tells about his driving abilities. And he goes right back and congratulates his teammates. Good heat for USA, Randy Will. Will had a fifth-place finish at the Innsbruck Four-Man World Cup earlier, and he's been coming along very strong, and he's looking forward to Albertville. And with a heat like that, I don't blame him. Here he is at a curve 9 now. He made a mistake here and still had great speed going into the Kreisel. He drives the sled off the wall a little late here and hits that right-hand wall, but doesn't make the oversteering mistake. He lets the sled run, and boy, did he let the sled run. The fastest speed by far and away into the finish was Randy Will. That shows why he's atop of the leaderboard. And World New York's Randy Will. Now up on top of the track, the policeman from Cortina, Italy, Pasquale Gasquito. He's only 100th of a second ahead of Randy Will. So we got a great head-to-head competition between the Italians and the United States. 5:40 start time, and there's 100 better than Randy Will. So Gasquito, a very experienced pilot, and he'll have his challenge in front of him with Randy Will. Here he is at the start. The Italians definitely send you that fashion message. I consider the best pants in the competition, not the best starts. He was in 4th place into the first heat again with only 100th of a second lead on Randy Will. So if he makes the same mistake as well, let's watch the speed. Oh, only 110.20 clicks. Randy Will went 111 kilometers, so he's going to have to make no mistakes on the bottom, and he just made another one right there. He's plus 13, that's about the same as Will was, but Will had 118 kilometers in speed. Let's watch the Italians. 117.39, so he doesn't have the speed of Randy Will. Let's watch him into the finish. There's only 100th of a second separating these two sleds. His finish time is not enough. 57.37, and it's good enough for second place. So Randy Will moves up one notch. He's now in 4th. The best sleds yet to come. Pasquale Gasquito may be dealing with too much snow on the track. So on top of the leaderboard, it's the United States, Randy Will. The Italians are in 2nd. Austrians in 3rd. Gunther Huber of Italy in 4th. Flachet of France in 5th. Another Austrians in 6th. The best 3 sleds yet.
Next minute, they will hurtle down a swerving tunnel of sheer ice. They call it fun. The Olympic Winter Games are coming to CBS. Fasten your seatbelts and share a moment with the world.
On most Prime Network affiliates.
Welcome back to Winter Speed. USA's Randy Will is atop of the leaderboard in a very exciting race we have for you today. Up next is Oleg Sharonchenko of the Soviet Union. He's got a 400th of a second lead over Randy Will. They're a much better starting team. There it is, 5.26. So he's now got a 1,500th lead on Randy Will. Oh, when you got the start time like that, you can make a few mistakes and still finish on the bottom, as we saw Gerhard Rayner do. Even though the Latvians have defected to the Latvian team, the Soviets are still very strong, and most of these guys have great track and field backgrounds, and it showed that with a fantastic start. Now, the times we're going to start seeing are going to be Randy Will's. Let's watch Sharonchenko's time. Oh, it's only got 110 kilometers, so he doesn't have the type of speed, and he's going way up and down in the Kreisel. Big time driving mistakes. Oh, and he flops it up the Kreisel. So he's only got 200ths of a lead right now with that 1,500ths lead at the start. So Sharonchenko is challenging Randy Will on the bottom. -9. 116.13 kilometers. That's not as good as Randy Will. It's going to be real tight in the finish. His time, 57.31. It's good enough for this heat. And overall, puts him in first place with a time of 1:54.58. Only 1/100th of a second better than the USA's Randy Will. That's bobsledding at its best. 1/100th of a second is about the length of your fingertip. That says it all about the sport of bobsledding. It doesn't stop. We go up to the top of the track now. It's Mark Tout. Teammates Field, Farrell, and Paul. And they're in second place into the first heat. 5:28. All these guys that are top of the leaderboard have great starts. And Tout has got a slim lead also on Sharon Jaco. And we saw what he just did. He came down with a great time. Tout's team's been together for a long time, and continuity in the sport of bobsledding is a very important element, especially at the start. So the veteran, Mark Stanley Tout, has got his destiny right in his fingertips right now. Let's watch for him at a curve 9. Oh, and he makes a little bit of a skid mistake. Same speed as the Soviet sled. Watch him on the exit. Pretty clean. Plus 12, though. Watch for the speed, 116 kilometers. He needs at least 116.13, so not as good a speed as the USA's Randy Will, and he's falling behind the Soviet. It's going to be extremely close. His time, 57.45. It's third in this heat, and it's third overall. So the USA's Randy Will is now guaranteed at least a bronze medal in the competition as the veteran pilot Stan Tout of Great Britain falls back 2 places. Well, he's 500ths behind Randy Will, and he's 600ths behind the Soviets. So only 600ths of a second out of medals, and he's a little disappointed. But up at the top of the track, Harold Chodai of Germany, he wants this. He's the leader at the end of the first heat. Tino Bong, Alex Young, Alex Selig on the brakes. This is their home track. 5.32. A competitive start. This is one of the greatest drivers in the world. 2 silver medals at the World Championships in St. Moritz in 1990. And he had a very competitive start. He was only 600ths down. Remember, the USA's Randy Will was 1,500ths down at the start. So you can overcome some of that start deficiency sometimes, but a veteran pilot like Harold Chodai, he's been in this theater before. 110.20, just like the Soviet speed, just like the Britain speed. Randy Will had the best speed going into that Kreisel. Great exit out of Kreisel there by Chodai. Anything above 117 kilometers speed will probably sew it up for Harold Chodai. He's got a 2300ths lead. Ooh, 118.68. The same speed as Randy Will, 74 plus miles an hour. Into the finish, his time is the best. 57.29 for Harold Chodai. And he wins the gold medal here in this exciting World Cup 4-man bobsled competition from Altenberg, Germany. On his home track, he was expected to do it. A second-place finish would have been a disappointment for this veteran, Harold Chodai. Well, the Germans continue to show that their program is very deep. There's 5 different pilots now from Germany who have won a World Cup race this year. Harold Chodai is the 5th one to do it. Needless to say, the Germans are definitely favorites at the upcoming Albertville Winter Olympic Games. The question is, who's going to represent Germany? Final standings, though, Chodai wins it. The Soviets in second. Randy Will of the USA in third. Mark Tout slips to fourth. Descuido's in fifth. Gerhard Rainer with great starts of Austria is in Germany's in first. The Soviets in second. USA Randy Will in third place. Mark Tout of Great Britain in fourth. Descuido and Rainer fifth and sixth. Look how close the times were. Seventh place was Huber of Italy. Blanchet of France was in 8th. Schasser, another Austrian, in 9th. Zintas Igmanis of Latvia continues to improve. He gets a 10th place finish. Dennis Marino of Canada is in 11th. The USA's Chuck Leonowicz, 12th place. Nick Phipps, the veteran pilot from Great Britain, was in 13th. Poikis, another Latvian, in 14th. And Heinz of Germany was in 15th. Standing by with the bronze medal team is my colleague, John Fee.
Thanks, John. We have Carlos Kirby, Randy Will, Joe Sawyer, and Tom Allen, along with Coach Meinhard Namer. Randy, this was a great race for you. You started out, you didn't get the luck of the draw. You started 14th or 15th and had the snow working against you, and a 5th place after the first heat. What was the difference the second heat?
Yeah, we relaxed and had a good time. You know, we're just here having a good time and getting ready to go home for Christmas and enjoy. But we just put it together. The guys rode well, and everything was perfect.
Carlos, let me ask you, as one of the pushers, the snow can be a factor on the start. Did it affect you this time? Was it deep enough to have a hard time at the start?
Actually, they were working really pretty good with the track. You know, as soon as the one sled get done, as soon as it was out of the way, then they'd get on and start sweeping all the snow out. It wasn't as bad. The hardest thing was to make sure that we were all in the sled by the time you get to turn one, because the push bars were kind of catching a little early. So that was the biggest thing that we were concerned with.
Tom, one question for you. Any message for the Swiss Germans?
Jorge and Adrian, the